Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo. If you're watching on YouTube, you see I got a fresh cut. Got to look good for you guys. Got the watermelons on my shirt, you feel? Anthony's got his #1 Joe Judge fan club shirt on. Absolutely fantastic. That's premium wear. I must say premium wear. But today, we're here to talk about culture. We're here to talk about Joe Judge, what he's done for this team just as a cultural basis, and how he's overhauled everything behind the scenes, and how the players have really taken a step up this offseason and really tried to recruit some guys, especially with Kenny Golladay and Adoree Jackson. Hopefully Adoree Jackson is able to sign and the money works out. But I have to say, the players have taken such a big role this offseason, and they really have bought into Joe Judge's plans. And I just kind of wanted to go through a little bit of how that happened, why Joe Judge has really has resonated with these guys, and why they're all buying into what he has to say. It's really, really incredible considering the head coaches we've had in the past recent years, and how little that the players respected them. But before we dive into all that, Anthony, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. It's a day where we're talking about Joe Judge, so that's exciting for me. I love Joe Judge. I love the culture he's brought to the Giants. I have been a huge fan of Joe Judge for a very long time. I've really been advocating for Giants fans to get on Joe Judge's side and fully support him since the beginning, because I just love what he brought to this team. And I think he really proved himself to be a good coach in year one. Not perfect. He's got things to work on. He was a rookie, so, every rookie, no matter your coach or your player, you got things to work on. So I think year two is going to be big for him. I think so far year two has been big for him this offseason. I think Joe Judge, Dave Gettleman have collaborated to do another phenomenal job this offseason. And yeah, I'm wearing the leader of the Joe Judge fan club. The Joe Judge fan club is very strong. There's a lot of fans within it. And you all should join the Joe Judge fan club. You should all get some matching shirts or hoodies or whatever you want. They're on the website. It's in the description. Go check it out. Pretty fire. Also got Kenny Golladay shirts to celebrate that. So go check out the merch shop. But yeah, man, I just love Joe Judge. I love the culture that he's brought over, and I'm excited to talk about it. We've seen the players really be more positive. We've seen the fan base. I haven't seen it this positive in a long time. It was never this positive during the Ben McAdoo days. It was never this positive during maybe the playoff run with McAdoo, but after that it went to crap pretty quickly in 2017. It was never this positive during the Pat Shurmur days, I can tell you that much. But now it's very positive. We're all very happy with what's going on in the off seasons. We're all pretty excited about what happened during the regular season. We didn't make the playoffs, but we came pretty damn close. There's a lot to really like about the future of the New York Giants, and I think most of that starts with the head coach, Joe Judge.
Yeah, I agree 100%. This is actually one of the more exciting things to talk about, because what we've seen from Joe Judge has really translated over to the players, and they've bought into his system. It's very clear. Just reflecting on last season, they didn't give up. When they were down, when they were losing, when they were shredded with injuries, when they didn't have Daniel Jones on the field, they battled as hard as you could possibly ask a team to. The defense, they managed to put together some really great performances without DJ, specifically against Seattle. They played their hearts out, man. And we saw in past years, especially with Shurmur and Ben McAdoo, that players gave up. Like Janoris Jenkins gave up. There were guys who just didn't care after a while when they were losing consistently, and that's why I loved OBJ so much, because even when we were losing, the guy went balls to the wall every single game, and that is something to respect. Like, I really do respect that, and I think that's kind of why they did a big interview process with Kenny Golladay, because there were rumors and murmurs that he gave up on Detroit last year, and that was something that they had to iron out, make sure he wasn't going to do that with the Giants. And I think Joe Judge got his answer. Kenny Golladay said, I bought into their message, I saw their vision for the offense, and I really loved it. And he even went as far as to say that the players, that reached out to him was a major factor in his decision. Daniel Jones even hit him up and said, you're an amazing player. We want you here. Saquon Barkley hit him up like before the offseason even began and was talking to him. Jabril Peppers, they met in Hoboken for dinner. These guys are helping the coaching staff recruit. They're trying to sell the message, and that starts with the coach. The head coach is the one that gives that message out. It has to go down the chain. It's like, if you're at a big company and the top CEO is giving orders, usually by the time it gets all the way down to the first level people, the ground level people, the message is completely just wrong. It's just a game of telephone. But they've done such a good job of getting the right message just translated to the exact right pitch to everybody in the organization, and that's what makes it really special, because everybody's on the same page. Anthony, what do you think about Joe Judge so far? I know you love him, obviously, but do you think this factor that he's brought of the culture change is actually a big significant difference maker?
I do, and I'm not going to give my opinion on it. I'm going to give the opinion of the players, right? When we hear what Kenny Galladay has to say, right? Kenny Galladay said he was willing to go through this long process because Joe Judge and Jason Garrett sold him on their vision. After that, it was a, quote, no-brainer. So that's one quote. Why the Giants, Kenny Galladay said, I like the vision Coach Judge had. So that's from Kenny Galladay, the source right there. He bought into Joe Judge's culture, and he's not the only one. Kyle Rudolph also spoke with SiriusXM NFL, said this about Joe Judge. One of the lines he said that really resonated with me was, overachievers aren't okay with mediocrity. I want to surround myself with a bunch of overachievers. That really resonated with me. That's a quote from Kyle Rudolph. Another quote from Kyle Rudolph. Kyle Rudolph, quote, loves the culture that they are building, end quote, after speaking with Joe Judge and Jason Garrett. So also want to give some credit to Jason Garrett. I've given Jason Garrett a lot of criticism, but clearly he's really good at doing interviews with players and recruiting them over here. And, that's not completely unheard of. Back in Dallas, I've definitely heard that he was well-liked for a while. I know things kind of soured out after quite a while. I think Des Bryant really was critical of him towards the end. But I know that for a long time, Jason Garrett was really well-liked in Dallas. That's why he had that job for so long. So that's not unheard of. That's not surprising to hear that he's done such a great job recruiting and selling these players on the culture. But it is very exciting to hear every single free agent that we sign. One of the main reasons that they signed is because they are buying into the culture and they love the vision that Joe Judge is selling them. I love the vision. I've bought into the culture. I think most of the fan base has as well. Joe Judge really has had a clear-cut vision since day one, ever since he did that introductory press conference. He said year one, he kind of hinted that it wasn't really about winning. It was about setting a foundation. He confirmed that at the end of the season, that he wasn't really necessarily worried about winning as many games as possible, but more setting a solid foundation for the future. He's really done that. The foundation has been set. The Giants have a very solid foundation of culture and on their roster going into 2021. Now we can build on this, hopefully see improvement this year in the win column, and eventually be a really solid playoff, maybe even Super Bowl contending team within the next 2 seasons. I really do think that's not outside of the realm of possibilities. Very realistic scenario there because of what we have with Joe Judge, the culture, the vision that he has. So far, everything that he's said, everything that he's given us from his vision, he has delivered so far. He has been more detail-oriented. The players have been more... You've seen a lot more camaraderie. You've seen players recruiting, right? You've seen players just working out together in the offseason, showing love to each other on and off the field. We've seen all of these things, and I think that's really just been brought in from Joe Judge. And the free agency, the draft, fans were rave reviews on last year's free agency, last year's draft. Again, rave reviews on this year's free agency. I don't think it's a coincidence that the free agency period has been so successful for the Giants ever since Joe Judge got here, right? So, yeah, credit to Dave Gettleman. He's done an excellent job. And you know what? He's also a big part of the culture that the Giants have built. Now, initially, I didn't like the culture that Joe Judge was building back in the Shermer days, signing players like Antoine Bethea to be player coaches and to just be locker room leaders, right? I didn't like that. The Giants have gone away from that. They don't do that anymore. Yeah, they got locker room leaders in guys like Logan Ryan, who are actually impactful, solid starters. Jabril Pepper is an impactful, solid starter. That is the big difference. We've got players who are stars, solid players that are also leaders, good players on and off the field. So that's been the difference. That's the philosophical change that Dave Gettleman has made ever since Joe Judge came to town. I really, I used to really have kind of a hatred for Dave Gettleman. It's kind of gone away. I've been very impressed with what he's done in the front office the last 2 off seasons. Plus, I think that him collaborating with the Joe Judge is a recipe for great success. I think maybe, just maybe, the Dave Gettleman issues were the fact that he wasn't collaborating well with Pat Shurmur. And I think that might have been the big issue during that time span. But now with Joe Judge, I see a lot of improvements from Dave Gettleman, and I'm very impressed. My hat goes off to him. I think he's done an excellent job this past year and a half. And so I'm very hopeful for the future. Even though when it came down to it, I did want to move on from Dave Gettleman this offseason. Really, he's knocked it out of the ballpark again this offseason. I think he's probably saved his job another year. But, again, I think it's because him collaborating with Joe Judge has been such a positive for his career and for the Giants' future. I love the tandem that they've built, and I'm just very hopeful for the future of the New York Giants. Thank God that Joe Judge is in town.
Exactly. And I'll give you a good analogy because I think it is fair to give Dave Gettleman some credit, and I'll tell you why. Imagine you had Plaxico Burress and Eli Manning. Right now, that is Dave Gettleman and Joe Judge. The duo, it really works very, very well. Their communication's phenomenal. And that's what ownership said. That's what John Mara said. We're not planning to get rid of Dave Gettleman because him and, Joe Judge have such a fantastic relationship and they work really well off each other. But if you took Plaxico Burress and gave him Mark Sanchez, it's not going to look too good, right? You're not going to get the same production. You're not going to get the same communication, not the same efficiency. That's like putting Dave Gettleman with Pat Shurmur. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to display like how the head coach and GM have to be very, very intertwined, have to be working together very efficiently for the team to be looking good. And I think Joe Judge and Dave Gettleman actually fit very well together because they're very, very similar in the sense that they want to establish a very strong running game and they want to establish a very strong defense. But I think that they're starting to modernize. And I think that Joe Judge actually understands the modern aspects of the game in a way that Dave Gettleman might not. So I think that Joe Judge brought over, yes, I want to have a strong running game, I want to have a strong defense, but we also have to have a strong passing game, and we also have to have a very strong culture to go with it. And I think he's brought that over and done a phenomenal job establishing those two factors. And what the players have done this offseason and what they've displayed is really a testament to how good the coaching is. And there's no coincidence, like you mentioned before. There is not a single coincidence that Joe Judge, the second he got here, free agency got better. The draft last year was impactful. And the draft is the big one. The draft is the one that really you have to build through the draft. You don't plug holes in the draft. You build foundations. You build depth pieces. You build, your future through the draft. Free agency is for plugging holes. And because, thankfully, for the first time in a long time, a wide receiver one hit the market, the Giants were able to find a bona fide receiver in free agency and give Daniel Jones that upgrade, that bolstering he needed on offense. And I think that the deal here, and I was looking at the contract, and I came to the conclusion the contract for Kenny Golladay is absolutely phenomenal. There's a couple reasons. The first one is they signed a 2019 value deal in 2021, and when the cap goes up in 2022, 2023, it's going to look like the cheapest deal out of the top receivers in the NFL. That's the first part. The second part is the deal essentially is only 3 years. After the third year, they have an out. After the 2023 season, it's only $6 million in dead cap, which is phenomenal. Why is that so important? That's the same year that Daniel Jones' rookie deal expires. So they matched up Kenny Galladay's deal exactly with Daniel Jones' rookie contract. So they gave Jones his wide receiver one for the next 3 seasons. And if both of them, let's say either of them don't pan out, both of them don't pan out, just one of them pans out, you can move on from one of them or you can keep one of them. They have a lot of flexibility there, but they have to give Daniel Jones the weaponry now. And I think that's a good testament to the type of coach that Joe Judge is and how well Dave Gettleman's doing as well, because they're not letting their quarterback go to waste. Think about the New York Jets for a second. They literally screwed Sam Darnold. They gave him a crap offensive line. They gave him no weapons. The defense was spotty at times, and the coaching was absolutely terrible. So what the Giants have done here is they've actually looked at Daniel Jones and said, we don't want to do the Sam Darnold's, pathway. We don't want to take that path. We want to actually give Jones the weaponry and the coaching to really maximize his potential. And I think that's helped him. It's going to help him a lot. I think we're going to see a big step from him because of it. Now it just comes down to the offensive line, a couple extra pieces. But I do also like the fact that players are willing to negotiate their contracts to be cap-friendly, team-friendly. And I think that's a big factor in buying into Joe Judge's ways and the management's ways, because a lot of players would be like, this is my money. That's my money. I don't want to mess with my money. But they're willing to manipulate it to help the team. And they're not even on the team yet. Kenny Galladay's cap hit is $4.65 million for 2021. He was willing to manipulate that so much to help the Giants. And I think that's a big thing. Just showing that he really buys into it. He trusts those coaches already after just a couple days knowing them. So I think that's really incredible. But, Anthony, what do you see moving forward in 2021 in terms of the in-season? I know there was a couple issues last year with Mark Colombo. There was a couple arguments there. Do you expect pretty much everything to be smoothed out from here on out?
Yeah, I do. I think the Giants are probably going to learn from the mistakes that they made in Joe Judge's rookie season. Again, he was a rookie, so not everything was perfect. He didn't make every perfect hiring on his coaching staff. From the outsiders looking in, we all thought that the Mark Colombo hiring was excellent. We thought it was going to pan out and be a really big get for the Giants. Ended up not being that way, but now we have a lot of confidence in the new guy that they brought in, Robert Sale. He looks really solid. His resume is pretty well built, so Yeah, hopefully that's going to pan out. Really, just across the Giants coaching staff, there's a lot of really nice names, a lot of really good guys to like. Thomas McGahee is special teams coordinator. Really like the wide receivers coach, the defensive backs coach. Really like Sean Spencer, the defensive line coach. There's a lot of really solid names on there, and Freddie Kitchens now not as the tight ends coach, but as a senior offensive assistant. I really like that move. I think that move is actually going to be more critical for the Giants' offensive success than most people realize. I think that was a very smart move by Joe Judge, realizing he has a bright offensive mind on the coaching staff, giving him more of a say in the actual game plan and more of the playbook than he had last season. That Freddie Kitchens has that. I think that's really exciting. But I also want to hit on, some things that you mentioned with the contracts. This is probably surprising for many viewers or listeners of this episode to hear this, or of this podcast, to hear this episode really turn into kind of a love affair for Dave Gettleman, but I'm just really so impressed with what he's done this offseason. I've been so impressed with the structuring of the contracts. I've really only disliked one contract. It was the one for Devontae Booker, whatever. I'm over it. But for the most part, they've been veteran minimum deals for the guys that deserve only veteran minimums. He hasn't really overpaid anyone except Kenny Golladay, but that to me was a necessity. You had to get that wide receiver one for the reasons that you just mentioned, Alex. You got to know what you have in your quarterback. You can't Sam Darnold him. I really, all of the contracts, and plus the way that the Kenny Golladay contract was structured, maybe they overpaid or gave him a little bit too much money. To me, I don't see it that way, but maybe they did. Regardless, they structured it in a way where it was very cap-friendly for the Giants, and it left them the ability to make a lot more roster moves, to the point where right now we're talking about the Giants are maybe going to potentially sign Adoree Jackson and really complete this free agency haul. So that's only possible because of the way that Dave Gettleman just structured that Kenny Golladay contract, or Kevin Abrams, whoever it was. They work in tandem. It's all part of the front office. I'm sure Kyle O'Brien, the guy from the Lions that we just hired, I'm sure he had something to do with it as well. Really just a tremendous job by the front office. Dave Gettleman, obviously the leader of the front office. So, again, hats off to Dave Gettleman. I've been thoroughly impressed with what he's done this offseason, last offseason, and really overall it feels like it's a whole new Dave Gettleman, and I'm very surprised to hear me saying this and feeling so positive and happy with what Dave Gettleman's done, because really I've been very negative on him since he joined the Giants. But I don't know, maybe I'm starting to come around. I do think it's the Joe Judge effect, though. I don't think I'd ever be talking about Dave Gettleman this way if Joe Judge wasn't here. But yeah, I'm very, very positive and very happy with really just what the Giants are building right now, and I haven't felt this way in a few years, and it's been pretty depressing for those few years. But finally happy, finally positive, and really looking forward to a bright future for the New York Giants.
It's all about consistency at the end of the day. Dave Gettleman showed us 2 miserable seasons, absolutely miserable seasons. And after 2 years of sucking, it's hard to have faith in somebody. It's hard to have faith in whoever it is. It could be the quarterback, the head coach, the general manager. And last year we weren't that good either. But I think it really comes down to the consistency, you know what I mean? It's really 3 years of sucking.
That's what I want to say, because I think it's kind of funny. The Giants still suck. We went 6-10. But the way that they suck is different from the way that they've sucked in the past, right? So
they suck,
we're very positive because, yeah, right. Like, we're not picking inside the top 10. We're picking at 11, but it's not inside the top 10, so that's a positive to take.
But our defense was top 10. It was our offense that was garbage.
Right.
At least one unit played well.
We saw huge strides from the defense, and we saw, kind of huge strides from quarterback Daniel Jones towards the second half of the season, and we saw a lot of huge strides from the coaching staff. Like, we just saw progress finally, which we haven't exactly seen. Like, I feel like year 1 of Pat Shurmur to year 2 of Pat Shurmur was just more of the same. Hopefully that's not the case with Joe Judge. Hopefully we see it get even better, but we're all very hopeful that it will. But year 2 of Pat Shurmur and year 1 of Joe Judge were drastically different, not in terms of the win-loss column, but in terms of the way that the team was built, in terms of the way that we played up to competition and not down the competition. It was just very impressive. Like, we saw a lot of fight out of a losing team. Like, we should have beat Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay went on to win the Super Bowl. That's one thing you would say. We did beat Seattle. We actually gave the rest of the league the formula on how to beat Seattle. They were not the same team after that. These are things that you pull from the Giants 2020 season. You say, okay, yeah, they did suck. They were 6-10, but they really fought hard, almost made the playoffs, and actually had a couple of good reasons to make the playoffs. They started off slow like we knew they would. Rookie head coach, COVID. But they really bounced back, fought really hard, and it was just impressive to see that the way that they fought. And I'm impressed. I'm very hopeful because of it. Very young team, very talented young players on this team. And again, a very bright future led by the GOAT, Joe Judge.
You know what? I gotta say, Dave Gettleman trolled the hell out of us. I'm thinking about it right now, and it's just popping into my head. He actually said during his postseason press conference, actually it was a couple of weeks ago, the one that was just most recent, he said verbatim, "I'm not a window theory guy." Indicating he was not willing to spend during the rookie deal, the quarterback on a rookie deal. He didn't care about the whole rookie contract, this and that. He trolled the hell out of us because a week after he said that, they went out and signed Kenny Golladay. They spent a ton of money to win during Daniel Jones' rookie contract. He trolled the hell out of us. He fooled us, and I'm sure he fooled a few GMs out there too, because they really turned that thing around. And he nailed us. I really want to start using some more of his catchphrases in our podcast, like cheese and crackers, just for fun. Gee, I don't even know the context. When do you say cheese and crackers?
I couldn't tell you. I don't understand Dave Gettleman. Yeah, I'm more positive on him, but I still don't understand him. But I will say, you make a good point.
He's a mystery.
Been a lot more. He really, he is such a mystery. He is just, you can't read Dave Gettleman. Well, you used to be able to read him. That's the point that I actually want to bring up, right? You can't read him as a person because he's just so strange and out there. But in terms of being a GM, you used to be able to read him really easily. You could always tell what he was going to do. You knew Saquon was going to be the pick. You knew exactly what the Giants were going to do because Dave Gettleman would pretty much verbatim tell you every freaking offseason what they were going to do. Now, I agree. He's been a bit more secretive. He's thrown out
Joe
some
Judge
smoke
effect.
screens. I do think it's the Joe Judge effect. Pretty much everything positive I'm saying about Gettleman now, I think, is in turn because Joe Judge is in the building. But, yeah, he's been more secretive.
I don't think the second he got here, it changed. The millisecond he stepped in that freaking door, everything changed. And I know it, and if you can't admit that, I don't have to say. And Dave Gettleman's become better because of it. And I'm gonna give Gettleman credit for being better, but let's not pretend that Joe Judge wasn't the catalyst behind this turnaround.
Right, yeah, I completely agree. And just what I'm going to wrap up this point with is, like, you just mentioned it. He said no window theories. Then he goes and gets this guy, and you just mentioned how that contract was structured within the window where they have an out once Daniel Jones's contract ends. Like, that was part of the window. He absolutely lied to us, but that's a good thing. He needs to start lying to the media and not tipping his hand so much. And I think that he's actually done a much better job with that last year and this year, just ever since Joe Judge got here. Like, even last year, I think we all knew that he was going to go offensive tackle, but we had no idea which one. And plus, we also didn't really know he was going to go offensive tackle because he would sometimes throw out these little things where it sounded like he was in love with Isaiah Simmons, like the rest of the fan base. Like, it was very confusing. We didn't really know what he was going to do. And sure, he tipped his hand, said he was going to get playmakers for Daniel Jones this offseason, but that's not tipping his hand. We all knew that. But then he went out and got Kyle Rudolph. Like, nobody saw that coming, and that was a really solid value signing. And then, he went out and actually went for Kenny Golladay, even though he kind of made it clear that he wasn't going to go for Kenny Golladay. So, yeah, we can kind of get the general idea of his plan, but the way that he really has been lying to us is actually refreshing, and I'm very impressed with it. So, yeah, go Dave Gettleman. Maybe I'm a Gettle stan now. No, I'm definitely not, but, I'm definitely more positive on him than I was in the past. Stan. I can say that much. Yeah.
Okay, well, that cracked me up. To finish this episode up, I'm going to read you something about Joe Judge that Kyle Rudolph said today. And it is really the epitome of what we're trying to get through here. It really just makes so much sense now, hearing the players talk about it. So he said this verbatim. This is the quote exactly. One of the lines he said that really resonated with me was, "Overachievers aren't okay with mediocrity. I want to surround myself with a bunch of overachievers." That really resonated with me. That's what Kyle Rudolph said about Joe Judge, what he said to him. That is my freaking head coach, man. That is my head coach. I want to run through a freaking wall for this guy, and I don't even play for him. He really knows what to say to players. The overachieving aspect of what they're bringing to the team. Like, they signed Logan Ryan to a 3-year, $31 million deal, and they didn't even pay him any extra to be their lead recruiter. The guy flew up from Florida to get this Adoree Jackson deal almost done, hopefully. The guy flew up from Florida to help the team. And, he's not paid to do that extra stuff, but he's doing it because he buys into the process. He's in with Joe Judge. He knows Joe Judge from New England. He respects him. The players respect him. He kicks their asses, but he's also a good guy to them. He actually cares about them. I remember last year during training camp, I think it was Corey Ballantyne, that they were doing a goal line stand drill. You had to tackle the ball carrier, and Corey Ballantyne got hit, and he dropped to the ground. You know, this is like a couple weeks into Joe Judge being the head coach, and Joe Judge ran up to him and was like super concerned about him, like he was his own son. Like he was concerned about him, like he was a part of that family. You know, the Giants are a family, and if you're part of that family, you protect each other. You have each other's backs. You know, watching Nick Gates and Will Hernandez last year, they beat the crap out of some people for even looking at Daniel Jones the wrong way. I love what the players have done because Joe Judge is setting the tone in practice. It all starts behind the scenes, and it's translating to on the field. It's translating to the offseason. They're being very vocal on social media. All these players are doing great things for the community. You know, Joe Judge promised he was going to do it for the hardworking blue-collar folks in New York, and he's getting it done. It's really just a phenomenal example of what good coaching can do, not just for a team on the field, but off the field as well, and what they can do for the fans. Because, like Anthony said earlier, I haven't been this happy in years. So that's all I got to say, Anthony. If you have anything else to say, I think we pretty much wrapped it all up, but I'll give you a second.
I'll say I agree. I think you made some really good points. I think the Giants have changed their practicing philosophy, like drastically, and it's been huge for the team. I think it's really helped them, and it's really helped establish that culture. I think the practice is where that culture has really been established for the Giants. I'll also say that Kyle Rudolph quote that you just read, I did read that at the beginning of the episode, had to point that out, but it is such a great quote, I had no problem hearing it again. I love listening to Joe Judge speak whenever he does a press conference. I love reading his quotes. They do inspire me. And yeah, that's a Kyle Rudolph quote, but he was paraphrasing what Joe Judge said. So yeah, man, I mean, Joe Judge to me is a very inspiring person, very inspiring coach. And clearly the players feel the same way. And I think that's really exciting that not only are the fans buying in, but the players are too. And it just gives me so much hope for the future. It's a young, talented Giants roster. And I have a lot of excitement heading into 2021, knowing that Joe Judge in his second year is probably going to continue to be the great coach that he looked like he was in his first year. And yeah, like I said, excitement for the future. Thank you, Joe Judge. That's me signing off as the leader of the Joe Judge fan club.
Well, thank you, Your Excellence, for blessing us with your kind words about Joe Judge. But guys, thank you so much for tuning into Fireside Giants. If you really liked our coverage the last couple days, you know, we've worked our asses off to get you guys instant updates, everything you guys can need, highlight videos, whatever. Make sure to subscribe below on YouTube and really turn on your notifications on Twitter and, you know, Spotify and Apple. It really means a lot to us. Growing a community here, and we want you to be a part of it. We have a lot of really amazing things planned, and we don't want you to miss out on this absolutely elite content that we're providing on a daily basis. It's not just every other day. It's not just weekly. It's every freaking day. So we're working hard for you, and we want to make sure that you guys have everything you need to be absolute monster, intelligent, knowledgeable Giants fans, because that's what we want all of us to be. And I'm excited for the better days ahead. The golden age of Giants football is hopefully coming up. I'm very excited. I haven't, like I said before, I haven't been this excited in a while. But I hope you enjoyed this video and our little spiel on Joe Judge and why Dave Gettleman deserves a little bit more respect now that he's turned things around. So I'm really happy about that. But we'll catch you guys on the next video. Have an awesome week.